most important thing about this etude by Heinze is that you have to double tongue. You can't make it through this piece without double tonguing, so you have to have mastered that. Let's do a little work with double tonguing. The syllables I use on double tonguing are do, gu. And some people teach things like tiki or taka or so on. You pronounce the D and the T in the same point in the mouth. It's the tip of the tongue should be right behind your front teeth on the roof of your mouth. You can even put your finger in your mouth to figure out where you're saying do, do, do. And that should be right behind your teeth. The gu is pronounced the same place as the K sound, in the back of your mouth. And so what your tongue really is doing in double tonguing is rocking back and forth. Do, gu, do, gu, do, gu. And that allows you to go faster. Now, one problem if you've done a lot of single tonguing but not double tonguing is that the back syllable is going to lag behind because it's a lot weaker. So just do a lot of tonguing only on the back syllable so that you strengthen that syllable. So I like to play scales and things just saying goo. Let's take a B flat and do some repeated B flats on goo. First of all, let's play eighth notes. Goo, 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 goo. Now let's try triplets. Goo, 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 goo. And then see if you can play 16ths. If you can do that, your double tonguing is really going to come along very well. So that's the kind of exercise you should do before you start any kind of double tonguing. Now, a very common rhythm in this piece is 8th to 16th eighth. And the way you're going to tongue this is you should play a scale just on this rhythm. I'm going to play a B flat major scale. Yeah. And then you put it into the piece. Here's the beginning of the piece. And so on. Now, all of the segments of this piece where you just have straight tongued notes, I would first practice them slurred. Anytime I have a tongued passage, I practice it slurred first so that my fingers get all in order. So for instance, the second measure is this. I'm going to slur it first. And then I'm going to tongue it. So again, that's do-do-do-do-do-do. I want to talk about the fourth line. There's a passage where you accent every 3 notes. Okay? These are not triplets, but they're groups of 3. Normally in 6/8, you divide the beat like this. These are eighth notes. Da, 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 da. What you're in fact doing in this passage is dividing the beat instead of in 3 into ba, 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 and further dividing that into triplets. Da, 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 da. So this passage is very difficult, and I would practice it in just groups of 3, going from one accented note to the other, like this. And then. And then putting together larger groups. I'm going to go one beat at a time now. And then you can practice the whole passage, but it's really helpful to think in those groups of 3 as they're written in the accents. Ba-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. To get that lined up. Okay? Now, let's talk about the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th line of this piece. You have 2 measures based on A flat, and I would practice your A flat octaves this way. In between those octaves, you have notes that make a chord. That's an A flat major chord. And the second oscillator measure goes like this. That's a D flat minor chord. And then that's what we call a diminished chord. And that's what we call a 5/7 chord. So practice each chord by itself. And if you take out those 16ths, notice the pattern that they make. They just go up a half step each time. So that's a good exercise to go. Then putting it all together, those two measures on the A flat go like this. Now this is just an interpretive thing, but to make it more interesting, what I like to do is make a little crescendo diminuendo during those two bars. And then you have two bars based on D flat. So again, just practice D flat octaves. In between those, you have D flat major chord, and then D flat diminished chord. It's hard to read that one because of the double flats. And again, D flat major, and then G flat minor. So practice each chord by itself, and then you can put it together. Like the other passage, let's see what happens to just the 16ths if we take those out. Then putting it together. So this is very useful to not just to run through the piece, but to divide it out and practice little segments of the piece like this so that you understand how the music is put together. Then you have two measures based on F. And I use a special fingering because the high F tends to get really, really sharp. So I add the regular fingering for high F is like this. I add my third finger, my ring finger in the right hand. I call that R3. And the pitch lines up better with the middle F. So let's do the same thing. Let's do octaves. Okay. And then let's segment each half bar. This is F major chord. And then a B flat minor chord. And another F major chord for a whole bar. And putting it together. Now, there's one other part of this piece that I want to talk about, and it's the very last measure when you start at a low E flat, go up to the high E flat. It's an E flat minor chord, E flat, G flat, B flat. And a good fingering to use for this chord is you should be using your thumb B flat through the whole piece, except for one measure, there's a chromatic measure. But if you can use your thumb B flat here, and then I take my third finger and I just leave it down for the whole chord. I'll show you slowly.